Princess Diana, the people's princess who died running from cameras, August 31st, 1997, Paris, France, Pont de l'Alma Tunnel, 12:23 a.m. The black Mercedes S280 raced through the Paris streets at over 60 miles per hour. Inside, Diana, Princess of Wales, her boyfriend, Dodi Fayed, their bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, and the driver, Henry Paul. Behind them, 7 paparazzi motorcycles, chasing, cameras flashing, engines roaring. They'd been following Diana all evening, through dinner, through the streets, relentless, aggressive, desperate for a photo. Henri Paul accelerated, trying to lose them. The speedometer climbed, 65 km/h, 70 mph. They entered the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, along the Seine River. Henri was driving too fast. He'd been drinking. Blood alcohol 3 times the legal limit. Nobody in the car knew. Inside the tunnel, Henri lost control. The Mercedes swerved, clipped another car, spun wildly, then smashed head-on into a concrete pillar. The impact was catastrophic. The sound of metal crushing echoed through the tunnel. Henri Paul was killed instantly. So was Dodi Fayed. Trevor Rees-Jones, the only one wearing a seatbelt, was critically injured but alive. Diana was trapped in the mangled back seat, conscious. Barely. The paparazzi arrived seconds later. Instead of helping, they took photos, flash after flash illuminating the wreckage. Bystanders screamed at them, "Stop! Call an ambulance! Help her!" French emergency services arrived at 12:32 a.m., 9 minutes after the crash. They worked desperately to free Diana from the wreckage. She had massive internal injuries, was going into cardiac arrest. Paramedics stabilized her, rushed her to Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital, but the damage was too severe, too much internal bleeding. At 4 a.m. on August 31st, 1997, Diana Frances Spencer, Princess of Wales, mother of Princes William and Harry, the most photographed woman in the world, was pronounced dead. She was 36 years old. The woman who'd captured hearts around the globe. The shy kindergarten teacher who became a princess. The humanitarian who held AIDS patients and walked through minefields. The mother who wanted her sons to know the real world was gone, killed in a car crash while being hunted by photographers. The world was devastated, heartbroken, enraged. The paparazzi killed her, people said. They chased her to death. The funeral was watched by 2.5 billion people worldwide, one of the most watched events in television history. Elton John performed Candle in the Wind, rewritten for Diana. Goodbye England's Rose. And the world mourned the people's princess. Now let me tell you the story of Princess Diana, the girl who never thought she'd be royal, the woman trapped in a loveless marriage, the mother who revolutionized the monarchy, and the icon who died trying to escape the very thing that made her famous. The cameras. The spare Diana before the crown, long before the tiaras, long before the paparazzi, long before the world knew her name. There was a girl at an English country estate who felt unwanted. Diana Frances Spencer was born on July 1st, 1961, at Park House on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, England. Her parents, John Spencer, Viscount Althorp, and Frances Roche, were British aristocracy, wealthy, connected to the royal family. But Diana's birth was a disappointment. Her parents desperately wanted a son, an heir to carry on the Spencer name. They already had 2 daughters, Sarah and Jane. When Diana was born, another girl, her father was devastated. He wanted a boy so badly, Diana later said. I always felt like I'd let him down just by being born. A year after Diana's birth, her mother finally had a son, Charles Spencer. Diana was no longer needed. She was the spare. When Diana was 6, her world shattered. Her parents divorced. Her mother, Frances, had fallen in love with another man, Peter Shand Kidd, a wallpaper heir. The divorce was bitter, scandalous. The custody battle was vicious. Diana's father won custody of the children. Frances was painted as an unfit mother who'd abandoned her family. "I remember my mother leaving," Diana recalled years later. "I was 6. I heard the gravel crunching under her feet as she walked away. That sound never left me." Diana felt abandoned, unloved. She developed an intense fear of being left behind. The Spencer children were raised by nannies at Park House, then later at Althorpe, the Spencer family's ancestral estate. Diana struggled in school. She wasn't academic, failed her O-level exams twice, but she had other qualities. She was kind, empathetic, loved children. After finishing school at age 16, Diana attended a finishing school in Switzerland, lasted only 6 weeks, hated it. She moved to London, got a flat in Earl's Court with friends, worked odd jobs. She was a nanny for an American family, worked as a kindergarten teacher's assistant at a school called Young England. Diana loved working with children. "They don't judge you," she said. "They just love you." At 19, Diana Spencer was living a relatively normal life, sharing an apartment, working with kids, going to parties with friends. She was shy, sweet, not particularly ambitious. And then, in the summer of 1980, she met someone who would change her life forever. Prince Charles, heir to the British throne, 13 years older than her. And somehow, impossibly, he seemed interested in her. Diana Spencer was about to become the most famous woman in the world, and the most miserable. The fairy tale that wasn't Diana Spencer first met Prince Charles in 1977 when she was just 16. He was dating her older sister, Sarah. Charles barely noticed Diana back then. She was just a kid, awkward, shy. But in the summer of 1980, they met again. Diana was 19. Charles was 31. They were at a house party at the Spencer estate. Diana had matured. She was beautiful now, sweet, wholesome. Charles was under immense pressure to marry. He was 31, ancient by royal standards. His father, Prince Philip, was pushing him. Find a suitable bride, produce an heir. The problem? Charles was in love with someone else, Camilla Parker Bowles. Camilla was everything Diana wasn't. Older, sophisticated, confident, and married. Charles had been in love with Camilla since the early 1970s, but she wasn't considered suitable royal bride material. She'd had previous relationships, wasn't virginal enough for the strict royal standards, so Camilla married someone else, Andrew Parker Bowles, and Charles was miserable. Now, a decade later, Charles needed a wife, and Diana Spencer seemed perfect. She was young, virginal, pretty, from a good family, no scandalous past. She also adored Charles, looked at him with pure admiration, made him feel special. Charles started courting Diana in the fall of 1980. They went on dates. He visited her apartment, called her on the phone. Diana was swept up in it. "I was in love with him," she later said. Or at least, I was in love with the idea of him. But there were warning signs Diana ignored. Charles would talk about Camilla constantly. "You'd like her," he told Diana. "She's wonderful." Diana felt uneasy, but she pushed the feelings down. On February 6, 1981, Charles proposed to Diana at Windsor Castle. "Will you marry me?" he asked. "Yes," Diana said immediately. "Yes!" Charles's response. "Whatever in love means." Diana laughed nervously, but inside, something twisted. The engagement was announced on February 24th, 1981. The world went mad. Diana Spencer, barely 19 years old, was going to marry the future king. The press descended on her. Photographers followed her everywhere. She couldn't walk down the street without cameras in her face. Diana was overwhelmed. "I didn't understand what was happening," she said. "One day I was a normal girl. The next, I belonged to the world." During the engagement, Diana moved into Clarence House, started learning royal protocol, how to walk, how to curtsy, what to say, What not to say? She was isolated, lonely. The royal family was cold, formal. Nobody explained anything to her. Diana also discovered something devastating. Charles was still in love with Camilla. 2 weeks before the wedding, Diana found a bracelet Charles had made for Camilla, engraved with their nicknames, Fred and Gladys. Diana confronted Charles. "You're still seeing her." "Don't be ridiculous," Charles said. "Camilla is just a friend." But Diana knew. She wanted to call off the wedding. Her sisters talked her out of it. "Your face is on the tea towels," they said. "It's too late." On July 29, 1981, Lady Diana Spencer married Prince Charles at St. Paul's Cathedral. 750 million people worldwide watched on television. It was called the Wedding of the Century. Diana wore a fairy tale dress, ivory silk taffeta with a 25-foot train, a tiara. She looked like a princess from a storybook. But as she walked down the aisle, she saw Camilla in the congregation, and Diana knew this marriage was doomed before it began. The fairy tale was a lie, and Diana was trapped. The prison of royalty. The honeymoon was a disaster. Charles and Diana spent 2 weeks on the royal yacht Britannia cruising the Mediterranean. Charles brought books about philosophy, read constantly, barely talked to his new wife. When Diana tried to be affectionate, Charles seemed annoyed, uncomfortable. "He didn't want me," Diana later said. "He wanted someone else." Diana discovered she was pregnant almost immediately. She should have been thrilled. Instead, she was terrified. She was 19 years old, married to a man who didn't love her, living in a palace with rules she didn't understand, followed by cameras everywhere she went, and she had no one to talk to, no support, no friends. Diana developed bulimia, an eating disorder where she'd binge eat, then make herself vomit. "It was the only thing I could control," Diana explained years later. "My body, what I put in it, what I expelled." She also suffered from depression, would cry for hours, felt completely alone. The royal family didn't understand mental health. "Pull yourself together," they told her. "You're a princess now. Act like it." On June 21, 1982, Diana gave birth to Prince William Arthur Philip Louis. The world celebrated, an heir to the throne. Diana was overwhelmed. She loved William desperately, but she was also struggling. "I was still just a kid myself," she said, 21 years old, with a baby, in a marriage that was falling apart. Charles was distant, uninterested in being a hands-on father, wanted to maintain his old lifestyle, hunting, polo, spending time with his friends, and seeing Camilla regularly. Diana knew. She'd find phone records, letters, evidence everywhere. "Charles was in love with 2 women," said a royal aide, "and Diana wasn't one of them. The other was Camilla." In 1984, Diana gave birth to their second son, Prince Henry, Charles Albert David, known as Harry. Now Diana had produced an heir and a spare. Her royal duty was complete. Charles stopped pretending. He was openly spending time with Camilla. The marriage was a shell. But Diana couldn't leave. She was trapped. The royal family wouldn't allow divorce. The scandal would be too great. So Diana stayed, and she suffered. By the mid-1980s, Diana was in crisis. Her bulimia was severe. She was self-harming, cutting her arms and legs, crying out for help. But instead of getting mental health treatment, Diana was criticized, called hysterical, difficult, unstable. "Nobody in the royal family understood," Diana said. "They saw my pain as weakness." But then something happened that changed everything. Diana stopped waiting for Charles to love her. She stopped trying to be the perfect royal wife. Instead, she became herself, and the world fell in love with her. Diana was about to become the people's princess and redefine what royalty could be. The people's princess. Diana finds her purpose. By the late 1980s, Diana had figured something out. If she couldn't have love at home, she'd find purpose outside of it. She threw herself into charity work, and not the boring ribbon-cutting kind the royals usually did. Diana went where others wouldn't. In 1987, Diana visited the UK's first AIDS ward. At the time, AIDS was terrified. People thought you could catch it from touching. Diana shook hands with AIDS patients, without gloves, held their hands, sat on their beds. The photos went around the world. "She's not wearing gloves," people said, shocked. Diana's message was clear. These are human beings. They deserve compassion, not fear. That single act changed public perception of AIDS more than any public health campaign. Then Diana started visiting homeless shelters, hospitals, drug rehabilitation centers. She didn't just show up for photo ops. She'd spend hours talking to people, really listening. "Diana made you feel seen," said one homeless woman. "She looked you in the eye. She cared." In 1997, Diana walked through an active minefield in Angola, wearing protective gear. The powerful image drew global attention to the landmine crisis. Countries started signing treaties to ban landmines, all because Diana brought cameras there. "She used her celebrity for good," said a humanitarian worker. "She gave a voice to people the world ignored." Diana also revolutionized how royals interacted with the public. Previous royals were formal, distant, untouchable. Diana hugged people, cried with them, got down on her knees to talk to children at their eye level. She wore fashionable clothes, not stuffy royal outfits. She was glamorous, relatable, real. The press called her Diana, Princess of Wales, and the People's Princess. She was the most photographed woman in the world. Her face sold millions of magazines. But the constant media attention was suffocating. "I couldn't go anywhere," Diana said. Photographers followed, me to the gym, to the store. They'd stake out my apartment. I felt hunted. And the paparazzi were aggressive, dangerous. They'd chase her car, jump out in front of her, shout cruel things to get a reaction. "They treated me like an animal," Diana said, "not a person." By 1992, Diana and Charles's marriage was completely broken. The tabloids published a book, Diana, Her True Story by Andrew Morton, based on secret interviews Diana had given. In it, Diana revealed everything: Charles's affair with Camilla, her bulimia, her suicide attempts, her misery. The royal family was furious, but the public supported Diana. "She's been treated horribly," people said. "She deserves better." In December 1992, Prime Minister John Major announced that Charles and Diana were separating. The fairy tale marriage was officially over, but Diana wasn't free yet. The royal family still controlled her, limited where she could go, what she could say, who she could see. Diana fought back, did a bombshell interview with BBC's Panorama in 1995. In it, she talked about Charles's affair, her own struggles, the coldness of the royal family. The most famous line: "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded." The interview was watched by 23 million people in the UK alone. The public was on Diana's side. Charles looked like a villain. Queen Elizabeth II had enough. She wrote to both Charles and Diana, "Get a divorce, now." On August 28, 1996, Diana and Charles's divorce was finalized. Diana lost her Royal Highness title, but she kept her apartment at Kensington Palace, received a $22 million settlement. Most importantly, she kept joint custody of William and Harry. For the first time in 15 years, Diana was free. She could date, travel, live her life. In the summer of 1997, Diana began dating Dodi Fayed, the son of Egyptian billionaire Mohammed Al-Fayed. Dodi was handsome, charming, wealthy, treated Diana like a goddess. They vacationed in the French Riviera, stayed on Mohammed Al-Fayed's yacht. The paparazzi followed them everywhere. Photos of Diana in a swimsuit sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. But Diana seemed happy, relaxed, in love maybe. On August 30th, 1997, Diana and Dodi were in Paris. They'd had dinner at the Ritz Hotel, owned by Dodi's father. Around midnight, They decided to leave, go back to Dodi's apartment, but there were paparazzi waiting outside. 7 photographers on motorcycles. They didn't want to deal with it. So they made a plan. Leave through the back entrance. Take a decoy route. Lose the photographers. Henry Paul, deputy head of security at the Ritz, would drive them in an unmarked Mercedes. What they didn't know? Henry Paul had been drinking. His blood alcohol level was 175, 3 times the legal limit. At 12:20 a.m. on August 31st, 1997, Diana, Dodi, bodyguard Trevor Rees-Jones, and driver Henry Paul left the Ritz. The paparazzi spotted them immediately, started chasing. 3 minutes later, Diana would be dying in a Paris tunnel, and the world would never be the same. August 31st, 1997, the night the world stopped. The crash happened at 12:23 a.m. The Mercedes, traveling at an estimated 65 mph, entered the Pont de l'Alma tunnel. Henri Paul lost control, clipped a white Fiat Uno, swerved. The car spun, smashed into the 13th pillar inside the tunnel. The front of the car was obliterated. The pillar had split the Mercedes nearly in half. Henry Paul and Dodi Fayed died on impact. Trevor Rees-Jones, the only one wearing a seatbelt, was severely injured but alive. Diana was in the back seat, conscious, suffering from massive internal injuries. The paparazzi arrived within seconds. Instead of helping, they photographed the wreckage. Witnesses were horrified. "They were taking pictures," one said. "She was dying and they were taking pictures." French firefighters arrived at 12:32 a.m., found Diana conscious but in critical condition. She was mumbling, "Oh my God, what's happened?" Paramedics worked to stabilize her. She went into cardiac arrest. They revived her. They rushed her to Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital, only 4 miles away. But the ambulance moved slowly, stopped several times to treat Diana en route. At the hospital, surgeons worked desperately. But Diana had a severed pulmonary vein. Internal bleeding they couldn't stop. At 4 a.m., Diana's heart stopped. Doctors pronounced her dead. Diana, Princess of Wales, was gone. At 36 years old, Prince Charles was at Balmoral Castle in Scotland with William and Harry. He was woken at 4:30 a.m. with the news. Charles woke the boys. William was 15. Harry was 12. "There's been an accident," Charles told them gently. "Your mother, she didn't make it." William and Harry were devastated, destroyed. Around the world, as news broke, people wept openly. In London, mourners began gathering at Kensington Palace, Diana's home, leaving flowers, candles, photos, notes. Within days, the area was covered in flowers, an ocean of bouquets stretching as far as you could see, millions of flowers. The world was in mourning. Britain shut down. Flags flew at half-staff. People were also angry. "The paparazzi killed her," they said. "She was hunted to death." 9 photographers were arrested, charged with manslaughter and violating French privacy laws. But in 1999, a French investigation ruled the crash was caused by Henri Paul's intoxication. The photographers were cleared of causing the crash. Still, many blame the media, the endless pursuit, the invasion of privacy. Diana's funeral was held on September 6, 1997, at Westminster Abbey. 2.5 billion people worldwide watched on television, one of the most watched events in history. William and Harry, just boys, walked behind their mother's coffin through London. The image broke hearts around the world. Elton John, a close friend of Diana's, performed Candle in the Wind, 1997. The rewritten lyrics honored Diana as England's rose. There wasn't a dry eye anywhere. Diana was buried at Althorpe, the Spencer family estate, on an island in a lake. Private, peaceful. Her brother, Charles Spencer, delivered a scathing eulogy, criticized the media, criticized the royal family for how they'd treated Diana. "She needed your protection," he said, "and you failed her." The crowd outside erupted in applause. Even inside the Abbey, people clapped. Unprecedented at a royal event. Diana was gone, but her impact would last forever. The legacy, the princess who changed the world. More than 25 years have passed since Diana died in that Paris tunnel, and her influence is still everywhere. Diana revolutionized the British monarchy, made it more accessible, more human, more compassionate. Before Diana, royals didn't hug, didn't show emotion, didn't connect with regular people. Diana changed that. She showed that royalty could be warm, real, vulnerable. Diana modernized the monarchy, said a royal historian. She made them relatable. Her sons, William and Harry, carry on her legacy. Both are heavily involved in charity work, mental health, homelessness, veterans' issues. Our mother taught us to care about people, William has said, to use our privilege to help others. When William married Kate Middleton in 2011, he gave her Diana's engagement ring. I wanted my mother to be part of this day. Harry has been even more vocal about Diana. In interviews, he's talked about the trauma of losing her, the pain of walking behind her coffin, the resentment toward the media. The paparazzi chased her to death, Harry has said, and then they took photos of her dying. I'll never forgive that. Harry's relationship with the media and the royal family has been contentious. He and his wife Meghan stepped back from royal duties in 2020, partly due to media harassment. I saw what happened to my mother, Harry said. I wasn't going to let history repeat itself. Diana's humanitarian work continues through her memorial fund and the countless organizations she championed. Her work on AIDS awareness changed how the world viewed the disease. Her landmine advocacy led to international treaties. Diana used her fame for good, said Nelson Mandela, who called her a true humanitarian. But Diana's legacy is also complicated. The paparazzi who chased her that night were cleared of causing the crash. The driver, Henry Paul, was drunk. Diana and Dodi weren't wearing seatbelts. Conspiracy theories persist. Some claim the royal family had Diana killed, that British intelligence orchestrated the crash. Multiple investigations, French, British, have found no evidence of foul play. It was a tragic accident, but the conspiracy theories endure, because Diana's death seemed so impossible, so preventable. She'd survived so much, people say. The bulimia, the depression, the failed marriage, and then she died in a car crash at 36. It doesn't seem real. In 2007, a British inquest concluded Diana's death was unlawful killing caused by the grossly negligent driving of Henry Paul and the paparazzi vehicles pursuing the car. But no one was ever prosecuted. The paparazzi who took photos of Diana dying in the car? Those photos have never been published. French authorities seized them. They remain locked away. Some things are too sacred to exploit, said a French official. In 2017, on the 20th anniversary of Diana's death, William and Harry opened up in a documentary called Diana, 7 Days. They talked about that awful night, the walk behind the coffin, the grief they still carry. We were just kids, Harry said, tears in his eyes. I don't think any child should be asked to do that. Today, Diana's sons are grown men. William is heir to the throne. Harry lives in California with his family, but both still honor their mother's memory. At William's coronation as king someday, Diana will be there in spirit, in the compassion he shows, in the modernity he brings to the role, and in the flowers people will leave, just like they did in 1997, because Diana, Princess of Wales, will never be forgotten. Epilogue. The princess who belonged to the world. If Princess Diana had lived, what would she have become? Would she have remarried, continued her humanitarian work, lived to see her grandchildren? Would she have healed her relationship with the royal family, found peace? We'll never know. All we have are 36 years, a failed marriage, 2 beautiful sons, and decades of photos. Photos of Diana at her wedding, Diana holding William and Harry, Diana walking through minefields, Diana hugging AIDS patients, and one final photo, a mangled Mercedes in a Paris tunnel. On August 31st, 1997, Diana Spencer was running from paparazzi when her car crashed in the Pont de l'Alma tunnel. She died because the driver was drunk, because she wasn't wearing a seatbelt, because photographers valued a photo over a human life. The world lost the people's princess that night, but her legacy, her compassion, her vulnerability, her determination to make the world better, lives on in her sons who champion mental health and help veterans, in the charities she supported which continue her work, in the millions of people who remember her kindness. Diana wanted to be the Queen of Hearts. She wanted to be loved. She achieved that, and so much more. She showed that royalty could be human, that privilege came with responsibility, that fame could be used for good. She wasn't perfect. She struggled. She made mistakes. But she was real, authentic, and that's why the world loved her. On that September day in 1997, 2.5 billion people watched her funeral. They weren't mourning a princess. They were mourning a woman who made them feel seen, who gave hope to the hopeless, who proved that one person could make a difference. Diana, Princess of Wales, lived only 36 years, but she changed the world. Rest in peace, Diana, the people's princess, forever in our hearts.